Nice. There are places where history and the legend no longer stand apart. Places where the mist settles heavily between the trees where ancient objects lie buried beneath the soil. And where generations of witnesses continue to describe lights in the sky, voices in the darkness, and enormous figures moving silently through the forests. The Ozarks are one of those places. Its mountains are ancient, its hollows are isolated, and its stories have survived for a reason. Some spark, some speak of forgotten civilizations and ingenious history. I cannot say that word raven every time. Others describe mysteries, objects traveling through skies that belong to another time. And somewhere beyond the firelight, witnesses continue reporting a towering, exclusive creature walking through the Ozark wilderness. Tonight, we ask a dangerous question. What if some legends were never legends at all? Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Darkwoods Paranormal, where refinement meets the unexplained. I am your humble host, Gabriel Von Graves. Joining me, like always, is Raven Knight. Raven, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm happy to be here. Happy to be here and talking to our guest tonight. I'm super excited.
Aw, I love it.
How are you, Gabriel?
I'm good. Wherever you are watching tonight, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, or darkwoodsparanormal.com. Thank you for stopping into the darkness with us and watching. Darkwoods Paranormal is produced by Unbox Media LLC, where imagination has no limits. We also want to give a special shout out to our friends at 3J's Hot Sauce, bringing bold flavor to even darker stories into Dark Realm TV, helping independent paranormal voices, researchers, audience researching for something beyond the ordinary. Tonight's guest is F.K. Sterling. F.K. is an Ozark folklorist, horror and fantasy writer, ancient mystery author, and boots on the ground researcher. Think of him as Indiana Jones of Arkansas, a researcher willing to travel through mist covered hills, forgotten trails, isolated hollows, in search of the stories and discoveries hidden there. His work crosses the boundaries between documentary history and enduring mystery. He studies ingenious, why Raven, history and artifact of forgotten civilizations, strange accents, and an ancient UFO activity, local horror legends, and reports of the exclusive Ozark Bigfoot. But tonight is about more than creatures, mystery lights, and things that move beyond the trees. It's about the stories a place remembers. It's about the evidence people leave behind. And it's about what happens when folklore, history, and the unexplained all point toward the same dark stretch of woods. Here in Darkwoods Paranormal, we do not gather to tell you what to believe. We gather to ask the questions others are unwilling to ask. We examine the stories, we follow the evidence, and sometimes it answers back. FK Sterling, welcome to Darkwoods Paranormal, my friend. For those that have been living under a rock, tell us about yourself.
Well, I grew up in the scrublands of Central Florida, Marion County, Ocala, on a 25-acre horse ranch right by a extended woodland area that I used to go hunting with my brothers quite often. And I searched for fossils and gathered shark teeth and different aquatic remains that were there when Florida was nothing but what we know it as now. It was just a vast ocean. When I was 17, we packed everything up and moved to Harrison, where I stayed in this area ever since. And I had an immediate love of the Ozarks. It was like coming home. And I had been steeped ever since in the traditions and the beliefs and the folklore of the region. Eureka Springs was always a location of fascination for me. The old Victorian architecture, the gingerbread houses, the whole thing, and the history behind it, which is really remarkable how the whole thing began. I mean, it is basically a whole town built on hills, ledges, and limestone outcrops. When you travel the downtown area, it's switchback streets, curving avenues. You have to go up steps, down steps just to move down not even a quarter of a mile down the street. When you walk, you have to look down to see where your feet are going because the streets are so old; they're all cut and in ruts, in breaks in the sidewalk. You don't be, if you're not careful, your feet are gonna cut, catch on them, and you're gonna go flying on your face. So you have to be very careful. But being in town, I've only lived here full time for a short period of time after I got out of college. I went to University of Arizona. Well, not university, excuse me, Arizona State University, excuse me. And I studied anthropology and art history there. And when I got out, I immediately decided that Eureka Springs, not Harrison, would be my home. And one of the things that really fascinated me, in addition to the paranormal history, was like the Bigfoot legends, the fact that we do have a Bigfoot that we talk about here in Eureka Springs. The difference between our Bigfoot and the one in the Northwest is our Bigfoot is happy. And it's depicted that in all the depictions of Bigfoot in this area. A happy Bigfoot, and that really surprised me. And living here, I learned to know more and more about the culture and traditions of the town. Now, one of the things I did investigate is vampires and the undead, and there is a strong tradition of that here in Eureka Springs. And I'm not just talking about the zombie crawl. There are rumors of vampirism. So I actually wrote a book called Blood Memory: From the Impaler to the Ozarks, Humanity's Undead History. And so basically, if you read it, starts out in Eureka Springs talking about the misfits, the oddballs, the artistic life, the nuances of our culture, and that there are real people who actually practice vampirism. And this whole idea that back in the day when the city was first founded, vampires from New Orleans came north and into Eureka Springs and have been there ever since. We just don't know that they're there, which is similar to my story about the zombie crawl, which I talk about extensively. I talk about the zombie crawl, not just having people dressed up as zombies, but there really being real zombies in the crowd. There's 30 accounts, some at the Crescent Hotel, some at the Grand Central Hotel, different places all around the town, the Basin Park, all these locations and these scary tales about these encounters. Like in the Crescent Hotel, somebody's laying in bed. They wake up, and at the foot of their bed is a zombie. So they're little vignettes, little stories, and I thought that people would find them amusing. I try to make them humorous to some extent, at the same time terrifying. And the same thing with Eureka After Dark. They're more or less accounts, and they all my accounts are said to be true because they're not just made up by me. They're based
Mm-hmm.
on urban legends and rumors and stories I hear from people's mouths all around the area. So it's really realistic. And then one thing I did basically use artistic license for is a book called The Hollow Resurrection. And what that whole story is about is the disciple of Conrad Dippel in Germany in the original Castle Frankenstein. There really was a Conrad Dippel, and he may have been the inspiration for Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and he lived in Frankenstein's castle, and he was experimenting with eternal life. That was his main alchemy and eternal life. Well, this guy is his disciple. Conrad Dippel dies, but the disciple carries on his work and discovers the secret. He doesn't age. And then the authorities hear about him and they close in on him, packs everything up, and a few things in a chest, and goes to the New World. Okay, this is the 1800s. Okay, and so this is really even before the United States was an independent country. So he gets in there and he gets in a wagon and just heads west, comes into what would become the Arkansas Territory among the indigenous peoples, and that's how you pronounce it. But
Thank you very much for
the
that.
indigenous, the indigenous people, and
Gives
digs
you
off their
like that.
mounds. It digs up their mounds, their bodies, pieces together these corpses, and basically does Frankenstein's work there. and animates them and lives there for centuries. And then the colonial people and people after that keep seeing him as if he's a specter hanging around the woods for generations, and his monster too. And there's scary tales regarding that. So this is something I really hatched myself, but I made it into a new urban legend. So it's fiction. It's not like my other book. It's not research, not folklore. It's something that I created. But I used elements of folklore, elements of rumor, and pieced it together to make the story. So I think it was kind of interesting. I hope it sells well at Halloween. I think it will. It's got a really gruesome cover. I don't have a copy of it here on my desk, but I do have a copy of
The
Bigfoot.
Bigfoot, which we will
So that's
definitely talk
selling.
about.
Yeah, and there's there's a couple stores already that are selling it in Eureka Springs, Pack Rat's Paradise, and the Bigfoot shop. They're already selling it. And I am having a book signing at LaGrange, uh, Oddities and
Oh,
Bookshop
yeah.
on South Main Street. It's Unit 12.
Hmm.
And they are going to be having me there. I'll be signing books, answering questions. And so my newest titles will be for market there. So people can come, meet me, discuss it. If you're in Eureka Springs as a visitor or if you're a resident, you're all welcome to come.
I love that. First of all, Lagrange is awesome. We know the
Yeah,
girls. We actually interviewed the girls that were in the back, like that own that little back shop there, which is
yeah.
also a super
The
cool shop.
curio.
We
Hmm.
yes, the Curio. We got to meet with them, and they were awesome as well. And so, of course, we're all about that and all about Eureka Springs. So I was super excited to know that you were from there because it's one of my favorite places. I know we've been there at least I want to say 3 or 4 times now. But what what I found the best, or the I guess you kind of mentioned it, but Eureka Springs has like this magical feeling to it, right? Like
Hmm.
it definitely has a
Yeah.
draw to it. It definitely has a ton of history, and I know that you said you kind of felt that same way about Eureka Springs. What for you was the draw? What what did it for you?
The people.
Hmm.
Because you have a sense of diversity. You hear a kind of a feeling among a lot of people in this country that if you have different viewpoints and different um, ideas in a very close proximity, that you're going to have an explosive situation. I know I said I wasn't going to talk about politics. This really isn't political, it's more sociological. But the thing
Hmm.
is that despite these differences, despite the different cultural backgrounds and orientations and things, everybody gets along. There's actually, I wouldn't call it a multicultural community. I would say that it's a diverse area of lifestyles and beliefs that have a general Eureka Springs culture. That it's the Eureka
Hmm.
Springs culture that you find here. It's not a bunch of cultures, it's one culture with a bunch of people coming together with a single ideal. And in a way, that's kind of how this country once was. It was everybody getting together, but one idea of America. Well, we don't really have that anymore, but we have it here in Eureka Springs. And the fact that everybody is so artsy, creative, and that's worship more than your money or your pocketbook. And in the process, they make money at the same time. That's what's really beautiful about it. And I've been very
Sure.
successful here, so I can't complain. I get irritated by the tourists. We call them Turons, which is a cross between a tourist and a moron.
Tourist and a moron.
But
Yeah. Oh
but
no.
I can't complain because I like their money. They make me money, so I put up with them. But I laugh at them
You gotta love
inside
it.
when I look at them. And I think it's Disney World, and then of course they stand in the middle of the street, in the middle of the path where you're trying to get to a specific spot, and they're all on their map. Now I wonder where the red line goes. It's like they think, where does Charlie to see Mickey Mouse goes, and they're like, hey, look, we gotta live here, And this isn't just, you don't just stand in the sidewalk for 15 minutes trying to figure out on the map where we're going to go next. Yeah, I
Well, the
just,
wonderful thing
I
about
don't know, it
Rika
just
Springs
irritates me.
the wonderful thing about Rika Springs is they do market to tourists. That's kind of the
Yeah,
attraction. Without tourists, Rika Springs would have dried up by now. And I think that's
yeah,
the
that's
draw,
true.
actually,
Yeah,
because the history of Rika Springs with the mud and the
Oh
elevation
yeah,
changes
the
when it comes
floods.
to what you see. There's actually a couple floors underneath that. You know, usually downtown. I agree with you. I always felt welcome as a tourist in Eureka
Mm.
Springs. In fact, that's what kept us coming back 3 times is because
yeah.
we were welcomed. You know,
Yeah, I love it
whether
because I love it in the
yeah,
sense that because of that, my books sell. I mean, I have
absolutely,
people, and that's why my books are related to Erie Springs and the Ozarks because they're
absolutely.
topics that tourists want to learn more about. I tried to sell my books in Harrison. They wouldn't even let me in the bookstore. I mean, it was just a dead. It was dead.
Yeah,
I finally said, I'm done. I'm not going to try it here. I got to find
Yeah.
some place. I'm going to go to Eureka Springs.
absolutely.
So I
And
had
there's
either
a
Branson or Eureka Springs. Either one. I had to pick. I picked Eureka
Branson's
Springs.
also gorgeous too, but Eureka Springs definitely has a energy about it. Just
Yeah.
walking around town, I know when Rave and I were there the first time, we came a couple days early, and just walking and seeing all the cliffs and the houses, there was
Yeah.
definitely a magic about it. And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
one of our favorite places to go.
It really
Well,
is, though.
Branson's just like
Yeah.
any old city.
Right. Like a
Yeah.
Disneyland,
But
Branson, yeah.
Eureka Springs has like that magical feeling to it. It definitely has like the history too. And I think that you probably have touched on some of the history in the books as well. You talked about doing a lot of research and kind of talking to locals. And what was something when you were doing research or talking to locals that surprised you as somebody who has never heard the story before? Was there something that stood out to you when that somebody told you, I guess, about the
Yeah.
town?
My barber was talking about this. He was talking about the movie The Creatures of Black Lagoon and how it was originally
Oh yeah.
supposed to be based in Black Bass Lake here in Eureka,
Oh wow.
and the whole thing was supposed to take place in Black Bass Lake. So when they actually went on to do the movie, they moved it. The whole scenery, the whole premise of the book now is in Central America or South America, wherever the movie was supposed to take place, and they filmed it in Florida. So it didn't work out that way. But then when I thought about it, I said, well, why did I do that? Why did I make a book called The Creature of Black Bass Lake? And I figured, it won't be copyrighted. It's not Creature of the Black Lagoon. My monster does not complete on the cover does not completely look like the same monster. So I came up with this whole thing. And so um, it wasn't just me coming up with it, though. This guy was telling me all these stories that he heard about this creature. And so I listened, and then I started asking around town, what do you know about the creature of Black Bass Lake? And some people didn't know what I was talking about, other people did. So I kept a mental record of what I heard. So then over the next few months, I sat down and I started digesting what I heard and putting it down on paper. And so out of that experience came this book. It's a small little book. It's like 110 pages, but it's scary, it's terrifying, and there are a bunch of stories. They're woven together, and they're not completely separate because at the end of the book they all come together, and you can see a cohesive pattern in it. Stephen King did that with a number of his books, where it starts out with a
Mhm.
narrative, then it breaks up into different parts, and
Mhm.
at the very end, it ends up and ties it all together. So I kind of used that format for it, and I think it's one of my better scary books, at least my earliest novel that's scary. Another one is um, The Whispers of the Hollows, and that book um, is about it's in the antebellum South, but it's in the Ozarks. So it's a slave woman who basically lost her family to the slave trade, and she's a voodoo practitioner, and she gets her revenge by practicing voodoo on the plantation owners and the slave owners. So she's a heroine, but she's also the villain at the same time. So she's not
Hmm.
only protecting herself and having revenge for misdoings to her, she's also causing a lot of pain on the slavers and all that. So depending on what you think, I mean, it is kind of enjoyable because the slavers in my book are really nasty people. So they all get theirs. She's the heroine, and she tells it all from her perspectives. But she uses voodoo in it, so it's also kind of demonic too. So that is that book. And then there's another one I did called the Eureka Incident, and that's about a crashed UFO right here in Eureka Springs in the early 1950s. Very much like Roswell, but it has its own regional flavor, and it's not just Roswell. It's based on rumors I heard in town, but is expanded with my own research and knowledge. And it's on its own level. It was not just a replay of the whole Roswell incident. It's unique. So again, that's like 110 to 120 pages. All my books are reasonably uh, reasonable length, so that they can be done maybe in a day or two. It's not like a 1 month read. I don't produce 500 or 600 page books like Stephen King does sometimes. I want people
Or
to
a
be able to
thousand.
digest, yeah, for
Hmm.
4,000 or and coming out in 6 or 7 parts. It's
Yeah.
what it is. They're self-contained, easy to digest books. I try to make it vivid and graphic, but I try to put it in very mundane verbiage. I don't want it to be so wordy and so superfluous in the way I say things. I want it to be very basic, very common
Hmm.
language, uh, but very gritty and very descriptive. That's where I think I get the King inspiration from when I do my fiction. He was very gritty, very graphic, very descriptive. He used
Hmm.
profanity, but I did it with a Southern cadence and a very local dialectical aspect. So
Yeah.
it's very unique. It's not at all a rip off of Castle, you know. So
Well, that's
I love
fantastic.
that.
Can I ask you about The Skull in the Stone? What can you tell me about that book?
well, I've always wanted to do a book on the crystal skulls.
Right.
So I wrote a book that linked crystal skulls to the Ozarks and then connected them to different geological features and processes in the earth and how they affect what we could call portals, and then link them to rumors of AUPs and UFOs.
Oh,
So it's speculative.
Hmm.
Now, in the author's note, I make clear that I'm not trying to make this an archaeology book or a pseudo archaeology book. This is an enjoyment. This is just me putting it out there. Like this is what I heard through folklore, through rumor. Some of it's my speculation. This is for entertainment. And if you get anything
Hmm.
out of it, that's good. But it's not to be taken as scholarship because scholarship is something that has to be rigorous. And so I did that specifically because there's skeptics out there that will attack it. Oh, it's pseudo archaeology. Well, it's not archaeology. That's not the genre it's written in. I mean, I'm a horror writer, and I'm not writing it for to be put in peer-reviewed papers and be laughed out of it. I'm there for the average person to read and really enjoy and put down books saying, yeah, I wonder if that could be. And that's the whole purpose of it. I don't call it archaeology or even alternative archaeology. That's what the book companies have done. They have done a big disservice to us ancient mystery scholars because they use the term alternative archaeology, which looks like we're trying to put it in that category. The best thing to call it is ancient mysteries. Then it's a completely different genre. And it's like hands off skeptics. This is not for you to digest. We're not trying to say anything. We're just trying to say our piece. And that's how I
Yeah.
approach it.
well,
I love that.
Arkansas. Um, Speaking of geological rocks in the earth itself in Arkansas, there is a lot of folklore about what you just spoke on because of the minerals in the earth there.
Yeah, exactly.
Underground
Limestone
rivers,
for sure. Yeah.
cave systems that are all over the place. So I like that you used a little piece of truth to entertain as well, because all that you've written about is very possible. In fact, we've had authors from from Arkansas come on and talk about how important the region is because of those elements. And one thing that I
Hmm.
find fascinating is that the UFO and also the vampires. I did not know that about Rika Springs. Thank you for that. Can you tell
Yeah.
us more about the history of vampires in Eureka Springs?
Yeah,
Well,
that one is.
it was just an idea that I really took as I
Right.
began the book itself to kind of link some vague rumors about that and trying to place vampirism in Eureka Springs.
Hmm.
I will admit it's more my own idea than something that really has a long-standing history.
Right.
But as long as there's been Eureka Springs, of course there has been rumors of vampirism. And I
Sure.
think that that's present in any culture. And that's
Right.
another
Right.
thing I tried to show in
Hmm.
this book, that it's not just in Eureka Springs, it's just not in America, it's just not in England, it's all over the world. And I
Hmm.
touch upon traditions of vampirism all over the world, whether it's East Asia, whether it's Africa, Australia, the Pacific Islands, South America, North America, Europe. I cover it all. I cover Vlad the Impaler. I cover Elizabeth Bathory, who are well known historical figures and linked to vampirism. But I also talk about all the other things. And there's one chapter I completely go into rumors of vampires in the Ozarks. And I
Oh
want to
wow.
kind of keep that under wraps because I want people to buy my book and find out
I
what I'm
love
talking
that.
about. Is
So
yeah, but
when you were researching vampires, what stood out to you, or what did you find that you didn't think you would find when you were studying about that?
well, what I
Globally,
really came
not
to
just Rika Springs, but globally.
Well, what I came to think of was that, and this is my own take on it, is that especially with the Indo-European cultures, that there was at one time, especially in the steppe in Eurasia, and I'm not just talking about the Indo-European peoples of Eurasia. Generally speaking, a lot of people in that center world island, center of civilization or culture, there was a lot of blood sacrifices,
Hmm.
a lot of things
Hmm.
like that. And I believe that a lot of the ideas of this idea that in order to live, you have to suck the power and the essence of the living. I
Oh,
think a
sure,
lot of that comes from this idea of blood sacrifice,
sure.
which was rampant at one time. Later on, Christianity came along and outlawed that. That idea continued on in the lexicon of mythology as if like it's a cultural memory of
Right.
the old ways. I also think like in Central America, we know there was blood sacrifice because the Spanish witnessed it. And so I think rather than it being a cultural memory in Central America, I think it was an active memory, association of the active practice of sacrifice
Oh,
that
wow.
was spilling over into their religion. So that's really
Absolutely.
what I came
Hmm.
to see there. And then, of course, in East Asia, there's really some bizarre vampirism ideas. Like there in China, there's this idea of a hopping vampire, a creature that hops, and
Hmm.
they're in Japan. There's the kappa, who's both a water creature and at the same time a vampire. So that's very unusual. And
Hmm.
so and then there's another thing. In Malaysia, there is just this creature that literally has a large snout that attaches to babies and sucks its blood. I mean, that's pretty gruesome, sucking the blood of
Hmm.
babies.
Hmm.
And they are
Absolutely.
very scared. When the babies are born, they do different things, different rituals to protect the babies from these creatures that could come
Sure.
and do away with them. So all these
Fantastic.
things were unique. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't expect to come up with this idea of blood sacrifice linking to vampirism, but the more I looked into it, the more that kernel of the idea came to mind, and so I started to flesh it out, and that became blood memory.
Oh, that's cool.
Wow.
So when you
Yeah.
talked about UFOs in Eureka Springs, that was very curious to me as well because here in Wisconsin we have, I guess, kind of our Eureka Springs, kinda where they had a alien, or alien craft, uh, I guess, crash. And that was very interesting in Wisconsin. But in Eureka Springs, I guess that's a part I didn't know. Are you a big UFO guy? Or was this just a
Oh yeah.
topic
Oh
that? Oh,
yeah.
really?
In fact, if you
Okay.
ever get me back
Because
on the show, you're gonna see behind me. I'm gonna have a bunch of X Files pictures in back of me,
yes.
and that's why that wall is blank right now. But it's gonna
What
all be back there.
What is it about UFOs that curious you, not only as a author, but as a person, a researcher, in a man of study? What about
Well,
UFOs
I like
attract
it
you?
because I've always been a science fiction fan.
Sure.
Star Wars, Star Trek.
Yeah.
But
Right.
above all, I like the 1950s and early 1960s and late 1940s science fiction, the golden age of science fiction. Arthur
Sure.
C. Clarke,
Yes.
Robert Heinlein, um, Isaac
Land of the
Asimov,
Lost, if you're,
Ray
my
Ray
age.
Ladbury, Ray
Right.
Bradbury,
Right.
all them.
Right.
They all
Ray
fascinate
Bradbury.
me.
I love him.
Yeah, Martian
I forgot about
Chronicles,
him.
Right.
Fahrenheit 451, you
Yep.
know? And so, yeah, he was a great author, and they all were. And
And a
so,
great
then,
storyteller. I
the
mean,
50,
he captured the imagination just like you do. And that's something that I think people struggle, you know? And back in our
Oh,
day,
yeah.
it was fluent because, we didn't have the technology we have now. We had to use the gray cells, you
Imagination.
know? Yes,
yeah,
imagination. And that's what I love about passionate people like yourself that experience that in youth and you're able to use that creativity. I love that about you.
I thank you. Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
I want to touch back, but you're talking about his youth. Like, we haven't even touched on that. Have you always
Oh,
been a writer? Is this something that you've always
Since I've been
done, or is
14
this
years
something that
old,
developed?
since
good
I
for
was
you.
14,
Okay.
a lot of these books that are coming out, I've been working on them since like 12 years. I just kept writing and
Yeah.
writing and
Yeah.
not getting them published, just refining them, getting them ready. When I was ready, I was ready. And so then I at that point, over a 2 year period, began to quickly edit, package, print, and market them. So I could take out a lot of different stories at once. Some of
Mhm.
those stories, which are Eureka Springs based, were actually originally written about Newton County and Boone County. But what I was able to do is when I moved here and learned local tales and
Mhm.
learned the geography and the locations and the history, I just went back and did a major rewrite at certain points and got rid of all the Boone County and Newton County references and made it Eureka Springs. And then on the back of the book, I made sure that there was a hook and a reference to Eureka Springs in the back book description, and then they just flew off the shelves.
Oh, that's
So that was
fantastic.
That's
how I
amazing.
did. Yeah, that's how I did it. So
Well,
Which
what about
which you had mentioned.
I
Well,
was
I
going
was
to
gonna
ask
say, but
about
he had mentioned
ghosts.
earlier about where. Well, wait, before we get to ghosts, it kind of ties into what you're talking about, and it's
Yeah.
just about location, right? So,
Mhm.
where
yeah,
you lived before, you said that they wouldn't even let you in the bookstore, and then you moved to Eureka Springs. We again
yeah,
know that Eureka Springs has all of this amazing history and all of that. Do you think that
yeah.
that plays a part in the fact that people are so interested in your books is because of the location, because people in Eureka Springs are more susceptible to believing and really actually chasing more of these stories.
Yeah, a big reason I started to think in terms of Eureka Springs is I was in Harrison at a book fair down at North Arkansas College. Didn't get many sales, but the people who did buy my books were all from Eureka Springs, and they came up and they said, "Did you go to the UFO conference in Eureka Springs?" I said, "No, I haven't." And I was thinking, "What the hell am I doing here?" So I went home that weekend and I started to say, "You know what? I'm getting the hell out of here." So I said,
I
I'm
love that you
leaving.
just edited yourself.
I called I called the landlord and I said, "Look, in 30 days I'm going to be gone." That's it. So I told my
Wow.
friends, I said, look, can you help me get out of here? They said, sure, we'll move you. And so we just, within a week, I had already found a place, already paid my money. They came, they moved me out in an
Wow.
hour. We were down the highway to come to Eureka. And that's how it all happened.
Wow.
That's fabulous, man.
That's quick.
Uh,
That's
What can
really
you tell us
quick.
about the
I love it.
paranormal? Since we are Darkwoods Paranormal, which is a part that always excited us about Rika Springs. What
yeah.
is the paranormal history in
Mm.
Rika Springs? Or
Well,
in your
the
research
biggest thing
in
I
general?
wanted to talk about is my newest research is about the black-eyed children,
Yes,
and
I
that
love the
relates,
Yes.
black-eyed children.
You shouldn't
and
love
that
them. Don't let
relate.
them in.
No,
Well, that's the name of my book.
yes,
Actually,
Yeah,
it's
I
not
know.
"Don't Let Them In," it's "Let Them In,"
don't let them
and
in. No, no, no.
and and what it says is that there was a cholera epidemic in the 19th century, and these children are really the supernatural manifestations of the children who died in the cholera epidemic,
Oh,
and
yeah.
they're coming back to haunt the living, but they have an agenda. They're lonely in the afterlife, so
Hmm.
they want to seize adults to take back with them because they have no parents in the
Right,
afterlife and they're
right.
lonely. They're children, they want
Sure.
someone to look up to. So basically, what they're doing is they're killing living people and taking them back into the other world, and that's the basis of this book. And they look
Which
at them,
actually
and
makes
this
a
is
lot of
my
sense.
own idea. They look at them, and their
Uh-huh.
black eyes are the stare of death. And if
Hmm.
you look into the black eyes, that's what'll kill you.
That's fabulous.
I
Nice
like
little
that.
spin on an old
It's kind of like
classic. I like
Medusa.
that.
It's got
Hmm.
the Medusa
Yeah,
spin to it.
yeah,
I have to ask you, I mean, so obviously, like we believe in the paranormal and a lot of things paranormal
Well,
here at Dark Woods Paranormal.
we
Not that
investigate on the
Gabriel.
paranormal. Yeah.
We investigate and all that. But have you ever had any of your own personal experiences when it comes to anything paranormal or even
yes, yeah,
cryptozoology?
yeah. I grew up in a
I would
haunted
love to hear.
house.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
there's
real haunted house. Yes, it
Well,
was.
well,
It was It was where I grew up, old farmhouse. It had been built almost at the turn of the 20th century, around 1902 is when it
wow.
was built. And when we bought it, the owners told my parents this place has a presence and it is haunted, just to warn you. And of course, my parents didn't
wow.
believe.
Of
So we
course.
bought the house and we moved in. I tell you, when you first enter the house, you can feel the presence. It is unmistakable.
Hmm.
And you go in a certain closet, it's like someone is on top of you.
Hmm.
And then, of course, all the
Mm,
chairs rock by themselves. You'll be sitting in the living room, and something like this will go across the room, like somebody's using the Force in Star
Hmm.
Wars, and it's
Right.
just blowing across the room. You're like, no, I didn't see that. I didn't see that. And then at night, you hear things in the walls, and your first reaction, well, these are rats or something, right? And then you hear more rustling. The next thing you hear is ooh, ooh. And you're like, oh man, that's just the way. Typical. That's and that and it wasn't just one night or two
Hmm.
nights or three nights. It's like every night you live there, and you're living there for years. And I'm in terror. By the time I'm 9 or 10 years old, I can barely go to sleep.
Right.
I mean, it's pretty bad. And one time I was upstairs in my loft, and I'm coming down. I swear I saw something at the foot of that stair. This was some weird outfit on. And really thinking back, it looks like how a woman would be dressed in the 19th century or the early 20th century, with the whole Victorian outfit.
Right.
And that's exactly what it looked like with the hat, kind of like how the girl in Titanic looked,
Hmm.
when she came up on the Titanic. That's exactly what I
yeah.
saw. Exactly what I saw. Scared the hell out of me, I tell you.
What do you think spirits
I
are?
howled. I screamed at the top of my lungs.
In your perspective,
But
as an individual and as an author, what do you think spirits are? What is the essence of a spirit? Is it somebody's soul that just didn't pass? Is it a record? that time keeps on replaying.
I would honestly say, as far as the supernatural, I believe there are natural processes in this universe. Nothing really, nothing. When I say supernatural, I don't mean like divine or something
Hmm.
magical or something that should not be, but is just something beyond logic, beyond the normal, like they say paranormal. I think it's super normal in the sense that I think what we see as the paranormal is actually part of the universe in its natural processes. And what we think are ghosts are really manifestations of this natural process. When we look at the cosmos and all its intricacies and all the things that's put together, I think what we see as the supernatural is just part of this normal existence. And I do believe there's an energy within us, but I think that energy
Hmm.
is universal among all creatures. And I think once the physical body, which kind of holds that energy in us, is dead, there's no reason for that energy to continue. That energy is released, and we talk about different dimensions. We talk about string theory and all these cosmic ideas. I think at that point, there is some transfer from the physical realm to the non-physical realm, but that's not supernatural. That's just a natural physical transformation into another universe or another realm. We look at wormholes as a perfect example, going into a new dimension, and I think that that's all it is. I think as humans, we have put a lot of store into the afterlife, heaven, hell, all that. And I do believe, in a sense, there is a place for good and bad. And the reason I say that, I
Hmm.
think everybody has a certain level of energy to them.
Hmm.
And it's based on you have positive energy and you have negative energy. And
Hmm.
people, I'm not talking about sin or mistakes or
Right.
belief. I'm talking about people who really emanate evil.
The
There's
essence
got to
of a
be a
person.
place for
Oh
people
yeah.
that
Right.
way. You know,
Absolutely.
and Christians say, well, this you can't do it. You can't have salvation by works. It has nothing to do with works. It has nothing to do with belief. It has to do with just simple, basic morality in the sense there's goodness and there's evil. Evil energy begets evil destiny. And I
Sure.
think people who are truly evil in the afterlife have an evil destiny. They go into this place of darkness and they can't get out of it. And it's a choice. It's a clear choice. The goodness,
Hmm.
people who choose the life path, doesn't matter how late in life it is. It's like I'm going to use this analogy because I love Star Wars. It's like Darth Vader. Look at all the evil he did, but in the end, he made the right choice. He saved his son and got rid of the most evil person in the galaxy. He killed him not only just to kill him. He didn't do it to overthrow him and rule. He did it because he loves his son more than that.
Sacrifice.
So that that liberated his soul, and he
Sure.
didn't go to the dark side. He stayed in the light when he died, and that's what I'm talking about. And that's to me, that's the afterlife. And I think when we see ghosts, they are just shimmering memories of that energy coming through to us and speaking to us in a very profound way. And that's really what I think. It's nothing to do with what I write about. Like if you were to ask me what ghosts are, that's how I would describe it.
I love that.
Wow.
That's actually a very
I really like
reasonable
that.
train of thought. I like it.
I have never heard that before, and I loved every minute of it. Thank you for that. um, th- okay, so we have to. I don't know if you wanted to touch anything on that, Gabriel, but
No,
I
I
do
love
want to talk
people's.
about.
One of the favorite things about being a podcaster and interviewing so many people is that the different perspectives and different ideas people have, just like Eureka Springs. You can disagree with somebody, and you're still accepted. And I love that about this field, and especially when it comes to authors, um, the creativity and the essence of one's mind to be able to be creative and be able to voice thoughts onto paper, make people you take people on these journeys, and I love that because you're able to communicate. how you feel, and that translates on paper. And one of my favorite things to do is interview authors because of that that perspective. And you said that you were a writer since you were a child, and I find all good writers were. You already have the storyline. You just waited till you're old enough to put it on paper, and I love that.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and my first writings, when I was a teenager, they really weren't. I mean, they were written nicely, pretty, but they were very verbose. They used too many big words. They were too
Sure.
descriptive. They went on and on with description. As poetic as they were not something someone wanted to pick up and read.
Right.
And I never learned that until I got to be an older man and I started really examining what sold. I went to college and one of the classes we took was on Stephen King. I learned all about that,
Mm.
his style, and learned to write like him. And then we took another class about, novellas, horror novellas, and we examined those. And so we took a number of horror classes. I took a class on witchcraft, the history of witchcraft, history and folklore of vampirism, uh, uh, horror film class, a horror literature class, of short stories and novels. So I took those classes, did well in them, and learned a lot. And the funny, one of my favorite papers I wrote in college was Dracula, Prince of Queerness, and it basically covered it covered the homoerotic undertones in vampire literature,
Sure.
which my
Mm.
professor
Hmm.
really loved. So it was a very left wing um, experimental paper. I don't know how many other students wrote that, but it was really a well researched piece, and I really like it. So
So one thing that you said
Well, you
was
have a point
witchcraft when you studied that in college. That's something that's always fascinated me, and I even saw a little element of that in Eureka Springs. And it's not
there. Mm.
the ability to cast spells. It's the ability to go back to nature and use the fundamentals and make a positive out of it.
yes, and I wrote several books about that. I wrote Witchcraft in the Ozarks, and I wrote a
Oh,
book of charms and spells based on Ozark folk culture and also witchcraft and Wicca. And I also wrote another book called uh, Winter Solstice in Eureka Springs, which is coming out this winter,
hmm,
and it's going to be
Wow.
about the witchcrafting pagan scene at winter at the winter solstice in Eureka Springs. Because I'm a practicing pagan myself. I know we said we wouldn't get into religion, but I just figured I'd throw that in there so people knew my background. And so,
Sure.
yeah, that's where I got some of those ideas from. And yeah, I encourage anyone to investigate my books, and especially the spiritual ones, if they're curious about any of these things.
so that interests me. So one of my questions are going to be: have you ever met a witch, and do you believe in the ability to actually do manifest, magic? But you said are you said you practice Wicca?
Yes,
Oh, that's
and I
fantastic.
mean, I know witches.
Sure.
Okay, and a lot of them are good friends, and
Right.
there's a lot of them. So yeah, yeah. I mean, it's nothing new. I mean, so I am really, to be truthful with you, I'm a novice. I am just learning. I'm just now expanding my path. I had dabbled in
Right.
different forms of paganism. I used to be a Norse pagan or heathen practitioner, but now I'm steering towards Wicca, and I am learning more. And I'm looking for other friends and associates to join with me who are also getting to learn. And there's different platforms. I mean, it's like Patty Negev, who was at the conference
Oh,
with
yeah.
me. She has a
Yeah.
class that she teaches, and I'll be taking that class and learning more. Because I've been an academic with this for a long time, but now I want to learn it as a practice, not just as something I'm studying.
Hmm. That's
Sure.
fantastic.
Could you
That's very, very
could you give
interesting.
us like just a cliff noted version of what it means to be like a pagan or somebody who practices Wicca or Wiccan?
Well, it's no specific order. I mean, it's that's one thing. Uh, to be a pagan, you have enormous freedom. It's
Mm.
pantheistic, it's nature centered, it's it's cosmic order centered, and it's not any specific doctrine. One of the things of paganism is you can mix different gods together. You can mix different beliefs together. It's called being eclectic. And you can be basically any person who picks up the faith. There are people called folkish pagans who think you have to be one ethnic, one ethnic origin or other to believe in a specific belief that's associated with one ethnic group. I don't buy that. However,
Mm.
um, there is this essence that, like with Christianity, a lot of pagans take Christian symbols or elements of Christianity or other religions which are not indigenous to Europe and mix it with their beliefs. That's okay. It's always been done by pagans. The difference is Christians don't do that with pagan beliefs. So that's the real difference. The Vikings often did that. They often said, okay, well, we'll put Jesus into our stories and make him a Viking god and make him a Viking warrior. You know, to a Christian, that was sacrilege. It was heresy. But maybe to a
Mhm.
Viking, he could do that because that's how the Vikings were wired. That's how pagans are wired. They adopt. And the Romans did the same thing with Greek deities. They had their own deities, and when they moved east into Greece, they adopted Greek gods. And then later on, Asia Minor, they adopted Asia Minor gods and Egyptian gods and melded them together. Those are all the same type of tradition. It's a very liberal way of thinking. It's a very liberating type of faith. And it's, I think, universal because it's so interchangeable with everything else. Like I try in my investigations spiritually is to also touch upon Indigenous American, African American, or not
Mhm.
African American, but Native African traditions, because they fascinate me and I think they have validity overall. So, I mean, I discussed that in Forgotten Titans. I talk about sub Saharan African giant myths in some of their beliefs. That's rarely touched upon, especially with giants. You always hear the European giant or the Nephilim
Mhm.
from the Bible and all that. This stuff is purely sub-Saharan African, and it's one of I think one of my most interesting books on giants.
I love that.
Interesting. Wow.
Well, you know,
Giants. We didn't even think we'd touch on that.
no, that's so. FK, what is new? What is next for you with all your accomplishments and all your studies? What is next for you? Where can people find you? And you said you are going to a book signing, and I think that's awesome. I hope we're down in the area because I'd love to get a signed copy. What is
August
next for you, sir?
22nd,
August 22nd. Okay.
yeah, at
Mhm.
Lagrange, 11
Mhm.
o'clock to 1
On the
o'clock.
grain. That's very
And
cool,
then
by the way. Very cool.
in my website is www.ancientozarks.com. If you want one of my books, they're all right there. You go on it, click the book tab, order it. It'll come to your house in 10 days. It's got my blog there with all my articles, videos of my podcast appearances. So I recommend anyone wanting to learn more
Mhm.
about me, it's right there. It's got my bio. You can study it, whatever. It's there.
Well, the Ozarks are definitely
I
an
love
interesting
that.
place, and in fact, my family have almost moved to the Ozarks, only because it's just the beauty and just the energy that develops that whole area. Raven,
Yeah.
what's next for us, my dear?
Well, I first of all, I want to say thank you so much for being on the show tonight. And I
Absolutely,
say this a lot when authors come on,
it was
but
a great,
I'm
great, great
seriously
discussion.
interested in a lot of in a lot of the stuff that you have going on. So I definitely need to pick up one of your books. And if I was, could you just give me which one? Like I'm a begin. Let's just say I'm a beginner when it comes to F.K. Sterling. Which one should I pick up? Which is my starter book?
Good question.
I just try Ozark Atlantis.
Ozark Atlantis. Okay.
Ozark Atlantis. Okay. All right. All right. So thank you. I will I'll look into that and I will definitely refer that to anybody who's listening as well. Let's all read it together. We'll start a book club.
There
Um,
you go.
as it comes for us, Gabriel, of course, we go live every Thursday and Sunday night. awesome guest coming up on Thursday, but I will let you know later what that is when I release our promo video. And we, at the end of this month, which is coming up pretty fast, if you think about it, are headed to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania for the Parajam,
So we
hanging
won't be
out with
able to
our
make
good
the book
friends.
signing then, will we?
No, we won't, unless
Oh,
we leave super early and stop
we'll
there on
be
the way.
east.
I'm just gonna move to Eureka Springs by then. I'll
Oh,
just, I'll just, I'll already be there.
well, that works.
No, probably not. Um, probably not. But I always think about Eureka Springs because I love it so much. But yeah, we'll be headed to Parajam, hanging out with our good friends from the Black Lantern Paranormal. And as always, we'll be releasing stuff on Dark Realm TV every Saturday night. That's when we are on there. So check us out there. Otherwise, stay tuned because we'll probably be posting some investigations that we're doing when we're on our travels as well.
Well, FK, thank you
That's what
for
we got.
joining us tonight and taking us beyond the familiar roads into the hidden hollows of the Ozarks. Tonight, we've explored a place where folklore, history, and mystery remain deeper intertwined. We followed stories of ancient civilizations and indigenous history. What? Say that word for me, FK. Indigenous. Yeah, my lord. We're looking toward explaining the lights in the sky. We stepped into the world of Ozark legends, cryptozoology lately, and enduring search for the Bigfoot, the elusive Bigfoot Raven.
I know
Yes.
we need to have him on again because I really wanted to touch on all the Bigfoot
We
that
need
Gabriel
to.
does not believe in still.
So I have a
Well,
few
It's
more
sad.
books out there, so maybe we should schedule that sometime.
we will
Maybe
do
a month
that.
or so.
And
Let's do
once
it.
again,
Let's do it.
we were reminded that the unexplained does not always announce itself. Sometimes it appears as a light above the trees, sometimes it leaves footprints behind in a trail, and sometimes it survives as a story passed from one generation to the next, waiting for someone willing to listen. FK Sterling, thank you for sharing your research, your stories, and your passion and creativity, preserving the mysteries of the Ozark. To everyone who's joined us tonight on Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, or darkwoodsParanormal.com, our home, thank you for being part of this journey. Before you leave, make sure you follow Darkwoods Paranormal on Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube, and make sure you go to go ahead and tell me your website again.
AncientOzarks.com.
Ozarks.com. Yes.
And it's in
Subscribe.
the chat just in
It
case you
is.
forget.
Yes. Subscribe, turn your notifications on, and share tonight's broadcast with someone who believes the truth may be stranger than the stories we have been told. You can watch previous investigations, discover upcoming guests, and follow our journey at darkwoodsParanormal.com. Have you ever experienced something you cannot explain? Have you ever witnessed a haunting, encountered an unknown creature, or seen something unusual in the sky? Maybe you have a story or know someone who belongs in Darkwoods Paranormal Spotlight. We want to hear from you. Email Gabriel Von Graves. No? Remember we're doing that? We're doing nope. Okay. DarkwoodsParanormal.com.
No,
Bring your
it's
story.
Darkwoods
Bring your
Paranormal
spot.
Podcast at gmail.com.
I still didn't
And I'm
get.
the producer.
Yes. And she will
Darkwoods
get a hold of you.
Paranormal Podcast at gmail.com.
Or Gabriel
And I will get a hold of it.
Unbox Media at gmail.com. We'll also get you there.
You check his emails. Listen, just email me. It's
Don't.
fine.
Rebring the spotlight, follow the journey, join the community, and help us continue investigations and it's in seeking out the unexplained. Darkwoods Paranormal is hosted by me, Gabriel Von Graves, and my friend Raven Knight. And once again, FK Sterling, thank you very, very much for being here. You can watch him and us on Dark Realm TV, helping paranormal enthusiasts, programming research for people searching it out. Until we meet again on another dark road, inside another forgotten room, or beneath another unexplained light. Remember, not every shadow is empty. Not every legend is fiction. And not every voice in the darkness wants to remain unheard. Thank you for joining us. Stay curious, stay aware, and do stay safe out there. Hang on just a few more seconds with us, FK. I appreciate you, and you guys